folks, Ariel over here, where now I am going to actually plant those potatoes. This is actually 2 days after I cut them up. The weather was ugly yesterday. It wasn't quite snowing, but it was a cold, just drizzle mist, not really enough rain to accumulate into being rain, but just damp outside all day. Right at the moment, we'll see if I can get this done before it starts again. It drizzled again this morning down here. When I woke up, I don't think the camera can see it, but right through the trees back there, the snow line came down to, it looked like level with my loft bed window. It didn't quite get to my clearing, but it was awfully close. So it's not exactly warm yet, but it is above freezing, and so I'm going to get these planted. I am using gloves just because I've spent so much time working in the wet dirt that my hands have gotten a little chapped from that. So I've got my potatoes that I cut up the other day that you saw, and you can kind of see how these cut edges, they feel dry to the touch now. They're not fresh and wet looking, so they've kind of got a scab on there. So what I'm going to do in this bed is, this whole bed is going to be potatoes. I'm starting with my red ones here. My dirt is really nice and soft, especially right now because I just, filled all these beds. So I'm just making a hole and then kind of pushing the dirt in around it. And I'm putting them maybe that far down in. The potato grows, down from there and up. Oh, and people ask about which way should you plant this. These little sprouts coming off would like to be the plant coming up. So I'm going to generally point those up and they'll grow roots down. Though like this one has 2 eyes on it, so I'm going to point up the biggest eye. This little guy will just have to grow around to be up on his own. And I'm putting mine like 7-8 inches apart. As I think I mentioned before, I plant things a little tighter than generally recommended because of my short growing season and knowing that my plants aren't going to have time to get super big here. That one's already growing well. And the other thing I do to get more plants into a smaller space is I stagger them. So I don't know how well the camera's going to show that. I have one right here that I just planted, one right here. Let me kind of leave them uncovered so you can see. One right there. Now instead of going straight over for next row, I'm going to stagger it and go in between. This does let you get across the whole bed a few more plants in. So in between those 3, there's going to go 2 there. And then on across, I'm going to have another 3. Go around to the other side, which I will in a minute. And so on. Hopefully that gives you an idea. Go for it. He's learning to stay out of the garden beds. It's a little hard sometimes. Oh, you know, it's so exciting. I know. How about you lay down while I work? It's exciting. So I do plant. Hey. Okay. Where you going? This way. Where you going? Stay. Good boy. I plant everything that I plant in that same staggered pattern pretty much, whether I'm planting beet seeds, onions, broccoli or cabbage, it doesn't really matter. I kind of do the same thing for all of it because it does let me get a little more into my space here so I can produce as much food as I possibly can. So I'm just going on down the row here. I'm kind of leaving the holes unfilled in here at the moment just so I can easily see where I've got them planted and not. Good baby, here we go, good boy. And fill in the whole way across here, then I'm gonna have to flip around to the other side. Now when I got one with the tail that long, I'm actually gonna make a little bit of a trench and kind of bury part of that. If the whole thing's stuck up, it would all turn into plant, but it will also all grow, well, whatever part's buried will also grow roots. So it just gives me more root underneath the ground. I'm going to just in there, good boy. Come around to this side of the camera for just a minute and fill in few down this side, which is hard to reach all from one side. They're a little too, the beds are a little too wide to reach quite the whole way across. Now, if you're wondering, that's background noises. You're hearing birds, songbirds, hummingbirds, and the creek in the background. So I basically have 4 rows wide on my potatoes here. And again, they're staggered back and forth away. So this whole end of the bed is going to be red potatoes, and then next I'll start with Yukon Golds, and so on. So that's not very complicated. That is how I plant my potatoes. And if you don't have any going, even if you don't have a big garden bed or space in the ground, potatoes grow relatively well in a large pot. They aren't going to grow very well in a little pot. They do need some soil depth. But if you have a big pot or bucket, or even like just a 5-gallon bucket, like you can usually find pretty inexpensively or even free from a restaurant that usually gets food in them and needs to dispose of excess ones, you can grow potatoes in that. But on the soil depth topic, that's another thing I've gotten asked is, are these beds that I built deep enough for a lot of veggie roots? I've read some things that said vegetables of varying kinds, need varying amounts of soil depth to go down in, and some of them said up to 24 inches. I've personally never had any kind of veggie root go down 24 inches, not even when I grew veggies in Pennsylvania. Maybe if you live somewhere even warmer than that, you do get deeper ones. Here, however, again, back to the theme of a lot of my stuff just doesn't grow as big as it would some places. I have, for all the years the garden bed was over there, the soil was on the ground, but the soil itself was only 4 to 5 inches deep before you hit really close to solid rock. So at 8 inches deep, these beds are actually giving my veggies more soil depth to grow into than they would have had before. So for whatever that's worth, that's my perspective on that. I think it will work fine, since I was growing a good bit of veggies before with actually even less soil depth for them to grow in. So now that I'm up to there, that's the end of my red ones. I can kind of go back here and just fill in the nice soft dirt over my holes where I pushed my potatoes down in. And those are planted, and they should start growing in very short order here, especially if it warms up a little bit, since they already have these sprouts growing and trying to stick out of the dirt. Hey. Okay, you can get up. Okay. Good baby. Good boy. Yeah, I'm digging in the dirt. This is the dirt you're not allowed to dig in. It is. Oh, there's a big fat earthworm. Good boy. Yeah, we're going to leave the earthworms be. We want them. And fill in this edge, and then on down the bed, I'm going to go with my next variety. So here's what the bed looks like looking straight down onto it as I've planted those. This is all the Yukon Golds. You can see how the staggered pattern goes from edge to edge of the bed, and kind of how the sprouts, at least the biggest ones, are generally pointed up in the hole. And then this end is where I planted the red ones first. Just smooth the dirt back over it, and right now you can't tell there's anything in there at all. Hi folks, Ariel over here. Thanks for spending some of your valuable time watching these videos. Hopefully you found something beautiful, educational, interesting, peaceful, relaxing, or useful while you are here. If so, find more videos here, subscribe so you don't miss any updates, and if you like what you found here, feel free to like and share away so that others can benefit as well. You all have a wonderful day.